team rap Jesus. We about to go far. My team rap Jesus. My team go hard. My team rap Jesus. We about to go far. We about to go far.
Hello. I'd like to welcome everyone to Fervently Creations. This is the place where we do marketplace ministry. We have to realize that everyone is not called to the pulpit. Some of us are called into the marketplace. Some of us are called into corporate office. Some of us are called into the grocery stores, or are in nursing homes, or in the hospital. So in marketplace ministry, I like to always bring on different guests that are able to tell you exactly what they are doing outside of the four walls of the church. Once we talk about the ecclesia, once we talk about the church, we are talking about a movement. We're talking about something that goes beyond the four walls. And so I just want to create an atmosphere, a platform to where people are able to go out and tell us exactly what they're doing outside of the four walls of church. How are you teaching? How are you making the word practical? How are you making it applicable for people today? How are you spreading the word? I love to say that there is 5 gospels. It's Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and you. And sometimes the only one that people read is you. The only one that they will open up is you. The only one that they're going to take the time to examine is you. So how are you bringing the word to the places in which God have called you to do? How are you bringing the mandate that God has called you to do in that? And so I am one that I love to platform people that are in business, Christians that are in business, Christians that are business owners, entrepreneurs, or even if you're just a nonprofit. So if you would love to be a guest on our show, I would love to have you. You are always welcome. Go to my website, www.ferventlycreation.com. If you are a Christian in business and you are taking the word out of the four walls of the church, if you are actually being the church, we are the church. If you are actually doing the ecclesia. So as usual, I would love to open up every show with a scripture. And so today I want to talk about our finances. I want to talk about what it is that God says. What does the word of God say about finances? And it is over 2,300 scriptures in the Bible about finances. So that means apparently it was important for God. It was important for us. It was important for us to be wealthy, and he did not want us in a place of debt. So with that, I want to read to you Deuteronomy 8, Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 18, where it says, "And you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you power to get wealth, that he may establish his covenant, which he swore to your fathers as it is today." And so once I think of that verse, what sticks out to me is that he gives us the power to get wealth. And I think of power, and I'm thinking he gives us the mindset to create wealth. With COVID and the pandemic, that everything happened and everything been shut down and stuff, it was people that got in the face of God, that they had to sit and get still and get quiet. And you begin to see businesses pop up everywhere. Entrepreneurs were birthed in the pandemic. In a crisis situation, people begin to figure out, hold on, this is who God has called me to do. This is the identity that he's given me. This is the power that he has given me to create wealth. And they begin to create wealth on a whole new level. They begin to create wealth by making stuff. They begin to see how creative they are. Fervently Creations. Listen, Fervently Creations, means fervent. Once I think of fervent, I think of persistent. You are persistent, and he created us to be persistent. He created us to get wealth. He did not want us to be broken, struggling, and broken, disgusting. And as many of us say, robbing Peter to get Paul. God wanted us to live in a wealthy place, not only in our finances, but in our minds. However, today we are going to focus on our finances, as I have a dynamic a guest today that is joining us, and that is what she does. She has a mantle on her life. She has a mandate on her life to help God's people get out of debt, to break debt off of God's people. And a lot of times we have the finances, but we do not know how to use it. So as I bring her up, I will give her a moment to introduce herself, and then I am going to ask our guest to tell us what she thinks about Deuteronomy 8:18. So with that, let's bring in our guest, Shereen Reeves. Hello, Shereen. How are you doing?
Hi, Tish. How are you doing?
I am awesome. It is so glad to be able to meet with you again. I had the pleasure of meeting this dynamic woman, and I promise you, I could have sat at her feet and talked to her all night, because she is that awesome. So, Shereen, would you please give the people a quick introduction of who you are, and afterwards, can you tell us what it is about Deuteronomy 8:18 that speaks out to you? How does Deuteronomy 8:18 move you currently, or have moved you in the past?
Well, good afternoon. Well, greetings, everyone. It is an honor and a pleasure to be in the same space with you on today, Prophetess Tish. And like I said, I'm Shereen Reeves. I'm the best-selling author of Drop the Bomb on Debt. And I teach master classes, and I teach people how to get out of debt. And so how Deuteronomy 8:18 speaks to me is, this is one of the scriptures that I stood on, my husband and I stood on, in getting out of debt. Because when I went to the scripture, Deuteronomy 8:18, and it talks about how God was giving me the power to get wealth, I was like, wait a minute, God, you're giving me the power to get wealth. And so I asked him, if you're giving me the power, here the word was on this side, okay? And then my checkbook was on this side. So there was an impasse here. And I was like, God, if you're giving me the power to get wealth, then why is my checkbook not reflecting what the word of God is saying? And in that moment, God impressed in my heart, your checkbook is not reflecting what the word is saying, because I'm giving you wealth every time you get paid. But you're the one that's choosing to go out here and buy a BMW, in which you're paying almost $400 for a light bulb. At that point, I had an aha moment, and I sold my BMW within days of God revealing that, because I never heard, no one ever told me this. I was like, wow, I dared to ask him a question. He wants us to ask him a question. He's not going to hit us over the head just because we asked a question, but I wanted to know. I sold my BMW, and I haven't looked back since. So this was one of my avenues of how I got out of debt, because I was willing to do what I needed to do, because getting out of debt was like, I wanted to get to the finish line.
That's awesome. How hard? So saying that you sold your BMW, that is awesome, because sometimes we go through society and we figure like, hey, I got to keep up this image, right? Mm-hmm. I seen something one time on Facebook, and they said that broke is loud and wealth is quiet. Wealth whispers. And so a lot of times you see people driving around in fancy cars to where, as you say, they can't afford to pay for the light bulb on it, because I think Cadillac, I think that their stuff is like $500 for a light bulb or so. And you're like, well, wait a minute, the light bulb costs more than a car note. Mm-hmm. So how is it that you got into the mindset to say, you know what, I'm going to break away from the status quo. I'm going to break away from this image that I have to keep up, that I decide to keep up with that of having some expensive car, a BMW or a Lexus or a Cadillac or whatever it is, to where the maintenance of the vehicle costs more than what the car note does, regular maintenance on it. We're not talking about just going and getting your oil changed, but regular maintenance, because your light bulb eventually will go out.
Yes. Yes.
Like that's and so I know, like with me, my husband, he likes to work on our vehicles ourselves, so he handles the maintenance. And so sometimes I look at a car and he'd be like, no. Like, no, he was like, their parts are too expensive. Because in the military, from my understanding, you are a veteran as well, correct?
Yes, I am.
So, as a veteran, we have our budgets that we have in the military for his maintenance and stuff like that. And so he's always looking at, okay, no, this is how much that part costs. So how is it that once we have people that once we get into financial situations, we're purchasing houses, we're purchasing cars, we're purchasing things that are upkeep on those things, we don't really have the money to maintain it. What do you say to people on that?
Well, actually, I tell my students something in my class. I said, whatever car you have, whether it's a BMW, Lexus, you name it, put it in there. If you are paying them $700 a month for Honda, Lexus, BMW, or what have you, and you don't have $700 to put in your account, then you have a vehicle you can't afford. And I say that because what happens is they want to chop us up in little pieces. What do I mean by that? Oh, it's only $700 for this. Oh, it's only $50 for this. Oh, it's only $75 for that. But when you start adding up all those little things, they begin to add up. And you got to make a decision what you're going to do with your money. And I made a conscious decision that I wasn't going to play this game no more. I read the word and it says, "Oh, no man, nothing but to love him." And I was like, oh, no man, nothing. It says, "Oh, no man, nothing but to love one another." And I'm like, well, was God giving us an option? Or was that something that he was telling us to do? Why would he put that in the word according to Romans 13:8 if he didn't mean it? And so I longed and I desperately wanted to be debt free. And there were questions that I was always asking. But I'm going to tell you, for every question that I had, he gave me an answer. Right when the time that I needed, I received it and it blew my mind.
Awesome. So my question, so I see your banner behind you, which is your book.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I do like that. You can see a little bit more.
Drop the Bomb on Debt. Mm-hmm. How did that book get birthed? Because we started off with a thought, and I would love to ask a couple questions about it. But before we go into it, how did this book get birthed? What happened that made you birth this book?
Actually, I was sowing into my community and I was teaching people about finances. Some people curl up with romance novels. I curl up with financial books. I had gotten to the point that I've read so much that I started to meet people at various restaurants, going over their budget. People was coming to my office, asking me questions. And then I said, you know what? I'm just going to start a class, because meeting with all these individual people were taking a lot of time after I would get off of work. And so I started forming classes. I didn't charge them anything. I wanted to sow into them. As a result of me giving over 36 classes in the community, I began to get all these stories and everything. And God would wake me up in the middle of the night and I would just write. And I was like, what can I call this? I don't even know what this is. And I went to my mentor and he was like, Shereen, it's a book. And so I was like, well, what do I call it? I really didn't know. So because I have a military background, I was like, I'm going to drop a bomb on debt because Prophetess Tish, when we drop a bomb on something, is it recognizable from what it was before the bomb got dropped?
Yeah.
So we're going to drop such a bomb on debt. You're not going to even recognize you anymore because you're going to wipe it out. You're going to put such a hurting on it. People are going to be like, you've always been debt free. And that's what I wanted to do. And so that's how the name of the book got birthed. Just volunteering, just sowing into the people's lives. And so now I did it for 2 years now. So, when you go from free to pay, you have to take a little break because now they have to adjust. So I stopped giving classes for about 6 months. And then when I came back, I started charging. And so that's what I did. That's how I did the transition. But I can tell you, the people who I taught, they were saying, yes, you need the class. They were so much supporting me till they sold into the people's lives. Once I started charging, they were like, no, I'm going to pay it because she's no joke. She's the real deal. So that's how that happened.
So to this day, how many people what is your track record for us helping people get out of debt?
I'm at 280 now that I've helped to get out of 2 million of their personal debt.
Wow. That is phenomenal. That is phenomenal. So I noticed you said you had a mentor and the mentor told you that was a book. The mentor told you that was power to create wealth, that what you was doing was something that was going to be able to generate another stream, another source of income. Yes. One thing that I do know about you is that you have the ability, and just from talking to you, I talked to you for a moment and you birthed the whole conference out of the whole conversation, like just that quick. So you are one that God has gifted you with the ability to see into people, to say, this is a gift that you have, and make people realize that, hey, they can fire you from a job.
What you say?
But they cannot fire you from your gift.
That's right.
Explain that to me.
Well, I say that because the statement is true. I was fired from a job. I went home and started writing and doing the things that I needed to do. And I produced this book. The same job that fired me called me up to rehire me in a different department. And the person that fired me, when I happened to run into them. I didn't have my book on my physical body, but I just happened to have it in my office. And I told the person, I have a gift for you. Well, they wanted this gift. They was like, where is it? And I said, it's in my office. I'll wait. So I went and I got the book and I sold it into the person's life. And I said, I just want you to know that you helped to push me into, to push me into my destiny. And I just want to say thank you. And the person looked at me, they started crying. They said, oh my God, I didn't think you were going to speak to me anymore. And I said, no. And I was wrongfully terminated, but I bless God that I looked at the situation differently. You see, sometimes when people do things to us that they think that they're hurting us, God says, his word says, all things work together for the good. Prophetess Tish, it was working for my good. So why this happening? And let me tell you, I was like, God, do I go look for another job? He said, no, because I'm sending you back. I'm like, God, what part of this don't you understand? I've been But let me tell you, 5 months later, I was back. I have no awe in my heart or anything. And God has just been amazing.
And you know what? And that's kind of how I feel with the pandemic. A lot of people end up losing their job or being laid off. But through that, someone either spoke something into them or God gave them a vision, provided them with the provision, and they came out with a business. They came out with something that made them more money than what it was that they was getting on their job.
Absolutely.
How do you find that? How do you find that gift in you? How do you find your purpose and what you was destined to do? How do you pull that gifting out of someone?
Well, here's the thing. If I can talk to a person 30 minutes or less, I can find out and I can tap. Now, they got to be telling me what they're good at, because if they don't tell me what they're good at, then that becomes a little more difficult. But usually something that you're good at, 5 or more people have told you, you know what, you're good at that. You're good at this. This has come so easy. So it's something you're great at. It's something that is not hard for you to do. It's not work. It's actually fun because it's something that you're very good at. So, like I said, you can get fired from a job. Nobody can fire your gift because that's something that God gave you. If I can get you to tap your gift, that's your money maker. That's your money maker. I got to get you to tap it so that you can start flowing from that and seeing the whole thing. So you're already a multimillionaire. I just need to pull it out of you so you can start rocking in it.
That's what I'm saying. Like, greatness is inside of all of us. And sometimes we are not connected to the right people to speak life into us. We are not connected to the right people or don't have the right people in our ear. And so they keep us in this place to where we're stuck at, or in a place I heard it being used over the last weekend, or we get into a place called stuck. We lose the job and we're in a place called stuck, or we get the credit cards and now we're in a place called stuck and stuff. So I do know a little bit about your master class, and do want to, close to the end, I do want to get the information out on how people can get into your masterclass. But part of it, you do talk about some pimps. Kicking the pimps out of your finances.
Absolutely.
Can you give us a sneak peek on just one of the pimps? I know we got several of them, but can you give us a sneak peek on one of the pimps that is in our finances?
And so when I think about it, you go to work all week, and at the end of the week, here's this pimp that wants to creep into your finances. So one sneak peek pimp that I will release is the silent pimp. Who's that? I'm so glad you asked. That silent pimp is, you know how you're so busy that you forget to pay something. Now, not only do you have to pay it, but you got to pay late fees. Yes. That's a silent pimp. It's going to extract money from you. And you're like, what the world just happened? Another silent pimp. You're on your job. You go to work. You're running late. You forget to pack that lunch and them little snacks you want. Now it's lunchtime. You're hungry, but you forgot your lunch. And if you do that several times a month, that's another silent pimp of going to get lunch somewhere, and it's extracting money out of your finances. You already brought groceries. You already cooked last night. And now what we got? We got money just coming out every day because you're choosing not to pack it, whatever it is, your fruit, your bottled water, all those things, and it's coming out. So That's an example of the silent pimp. And you got to get ahead of the silent pimp, which is planning ahead so that you can get up early, pack your stuff the night before, whatever you need to do, get ahead on those bills. As soon as they come in, pay them so that you don't have to do that.
So you was talking about the late fees and stuff. You had the actual number in, I want to say 2019, of how much banks made off people that tried to pay bills, and which I think non-sufficient funds fees falls up under silent pimp, right?
Ha. It could possibly fall up under there. I didn't use that, but in the presentation, I talk about how in 2016, you know how you just don't remember to write those things down. So in 2016, people paid 15 billion with a B on non-sufficient funds in their account. Why? Because they forgot to write those things down. And I'm telling you, before I got debt free and I wasn't writing stuff down, I was part of that 15 billion with a B.
Wow. So you said writing stuff down, and I want to say it's what, less than 1%, what, less than 4% that actually write down a budget or even have a budget.
It's 3% of Americans that have a written budget. And you know, a lot of people don't know that it is biblical to have a budget. Why? Because Habakkuk talks about write the vision, write your financial vision, make it plain, but you got to write it. Why? You got to write it because we forget stuff.
And it also tells us to count up the costs, right?
Yes. Yes.
So are we actually counting up the cost ahead of time before we build a house, before we get the vehicle, before we are we actually giving our money a location? Are we actually telling our money where to go? So are we actually writing out, this is where this dollar is supposed to go, this is where this piece of money needs to go? So with the budget in your financial class that you have, your master class, that is what are, besides the budget, that is some of the things that you teach on, correct?
Right.
What else do you teach on in your
class? I talk about the pimps, but in our 4-week master class, I'm giving everybody a uniform budget. And each week people turn in the amounts that they actually pay off so we can get it to our big budget to keep track of how much we're helping people to pay off things. And so once you begin to do it, and you continue to do it, and you continue to do it, then it becomes a habit. And then you feel empowered because you just directed traffic. Instead of wondering where your money went, you're putting it on an assignment.
So what do you say to people that they know that they need to start somewhere, but they are beat with shame and guilt of their financial state? How do you help those people come out and say, hey, like, it's okay, like, but they're scared to sit down with a financial planner, a financial advisor, a financial coach to help them get out of their situation? How do you motivate those people?
That is an awesome question. So here's the thing. If you're hungry, you might be ashamed to tell somebody you're hungry, but you're going to continue to stay hungry if you don't tell anybody. And so my finances were jacked up. And so in order for me to change anything about what I was doing, I had to make a change. I had to open up my mouth, say where my weaknesses were, and that I needed help. That was the best discussion I've had because it was the start of my about face and getting something changed. So I would say, you know what? Closed mouths don't get fed. And here's the thing. Do you want to leave your kids with a will, or do you want to leave your kids with bills?
I love that.
You just gotta make up your mind that, you know what? So what? You're embarrassed. It's not about you, because you stop breathing. It's going to be about your family. And so today you got to say, you know what? I'm going to put on my big girl panties and I'm going to get this fixed. That's it.
Moving pride out the way.
Yes.
Moving out. I love that. I love that. So how do people get signed up for your financial classes?
One for the master class is on Eventbrite, but they can go to the website reevesfinancialcoach.com and fill out their information there. And we will let them know when the next 4-week class is going to get started. And that's just going to be the start of it. You're not in this alone. You have a community that wants to rock with you in getting debt free. I have not always been this way. Nobody in my family is this way, but we're making a decision now to move forward.
I love that. I love that. And how can they also purchase your book?
They can go on Amazon, but they can also go on reevesfinancialcoach.com
and purchase it. So I have another question. So just recently, everyone was out buying lottery tickets, right? Because the lottery was at $1 billion. And I don't know if anybody have ever heard God speak to them before, but it was a lot of people that were saying, God spoke to me and told me to go buy a lottery ticket. So God was speaking to everybody, telling them to go buy a lottery ticket all of a sudden, right? Everybody can hear God all of a sudden now that the lottery is out. Any other time that, they can't hear me, but this is the power that He's got me to create wealth. What happens once you win a lottery? Or you come into not even just lottery, you come into a significant amount of money. I'm not going to say wealth, because I think wealth is a little bit more than just a dollar amount. But you come into a significant amount of money, or your finances increase, whether you get a raise on your job or whether you end up switching jobs and you go from making $30,000 a year to $75,000 a year, your income double. You're not used to having this money. What do you say to the mindset of those? Like what happened that those people just continue to go in debt?
Okay. One of the things you said is, people went out to buy lottery tickets. And what happens when a person wins a lottery, and comes into this large sum of money? One of the first things that happen is they publicly announce it. So now not only have you won the lottery, but they just announced it to the entire world. You know what happens when they announce stuff? Your phone starts ringing because now everybody knows how much you won. Mm-hmm. Most people who win a lottery have no idea on how to handle the money. So therefore, it goes as quickly as it came. Mm-hmm. And when you don't know how to handle something, you will abuse it because you don't know what it is that you're supposed to be doing with it.
Right.
So I will answer this question like one of my mentors who have been millionaires since they were 30 told me. The largest check I ever received at one time was $104,000. And I asked my mentors, hey, what should I do? They said, don't do anything. Act like you don't even have it. And don't do anything for a complete year other than, your tithes and stuff like that. And so I did. They said, if you can do this, then you won't have any problems dealing with money ever again. Mm-hmm. That was 12 years ago that I did that. And I did not go back to it. I just continued to build on it with investments and stuff like that. And that was the best advice I could have ever gotten. I'm not going to say it wasn't hard. The other thing they said was, besides don't do anything with it, don't share with anybody that you even have this. So that was another thing. And that was really crucial and key. Why? Because that means people will come to you to start asking or what have you. And I didn't feel the pressure, but I stayed accountable. And that's real key when it comes to being debt free and doing something with your finances. You got to stay accountable. If you're not accountable, you'll do whatever. Their accountability helps you with your restraints. it helps you.
So I remember in the military, as an NCO, you was an officer, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
But as an NCO, we would often have to tell our soldiers, and I'm not sure what conversations happen in the officer world, but in the NCOs, we often had to tell the new soldiers, don't give all your money like to your family. Like for some reason, people would say, oh, they're in the military, they got money. Or, oh, now they are veteran, they got money, they're loaded. And so automatically people, they have been paying their bills on their own for years before you even joined the service. All of a sudden they don't know how to pay their bills. And so you have those people that come and they leeches, and they leech after you. It's the power of no. No is a complete sentence. What is the power of saying no in your finances?
Well, here's the thing. I know this is a Christian show and I respect that. However, I must give the people a curse pass on today. What do I mean by that? When you tell people no, they will look at you and respond to you as though you cursed them out because you've always been saying yes. Military people get paid the 1st and the 15th. They don't have a problem until the 14th and the 31st. Come on now. So you have to be able to say no, because what's happening is you are continuing to enable your family, your friends, or whoever, and you got to stop. So in order to make your family a priority, what does it look like if I'm buying everybody else formula and my baby is at home and doesn't have any formula? That's out of order. So take care of your family first, and everybody else has to. How about what happened was everybody else has to wait. But I noticed my phone stopped ringing when I said, I will help you with the budget.
That's good. That's good. How many veterans, and just shifting a little bit, how many veterans are in debt?
Probably majority, because we are of the mentality of we got to have this shiny car, we got to have this, we got to have that. And a lot of people don't even know where that mindset comes from. And so when I do the 4-week class, I actually educate the people, have them to go look at a video and come back and we discuss it so they can understand where that mindset came from, and so that their eyes can be open.
So a lot of us have been in situations to where we did not have the education, right? And a lot of us, we use that as a crutch at some point. Oh, my mom didn't teach me about finances, or, oh, they didn't teach me about finances in school, and they didn't teach me how to budget a checkbook, or, and at the end of the day, we have to realize that I can't give you what I don't have. I don't know what I don't know. So, but we hold that to it, but we also use it as a crutch of not to grow, as not to go out and get the information. But now it's a plethora of information at our fingertips on how of financial education, financial wisdom, but we use it as a crutch.
Correct. Because like you said, you can't fault your parents for not giving you this information. But I would ask you this: what's stopping you from going to Barnes and Noble, getting in a chair, curling up with the book, getting you some cappuccino and reading? What's wrong with you going to the library and checking out some financial books? What's wrong with you going to Google and looking up some information? So when we say we don't know how to do something, yes, that may be true, but reading could take you a whole lot more places if you choose to do it. And those are just some of the things that I do. I go to the thrift store and get financial books. I go to a place called Second and Charles and get financial books. I go to Barnes and Noble. I go online. I see if the book is used. But financial information doesn't get old, and I still continue to grow, continue to be coached, continue to read, because I even want more. There's levels to everything. You can always continue to grow, and that's my plan, is continue to grow.
You mentioned the library. I remember seeing something on Facebook one time. So it might have been Facebook. Either way, it was social media. And in there, it had 4 different things. And they asked people, if you could have any one of these rooms in your house, which one would you pick? It was a media room. It was an exercise room. I'm just going to say the other one was a game room. And it was a library. Which one do you think was less picked?
The library.
Why is that?
You know, I used to hear a saying, and I don't know if you ever heard of it, but it said, if you want to hide something from people of color, put it in a book, because they'll never read it. And I have 3 bookcases in my home. I don't watch TV, and I'm constantly wanting to learn, wanting to curl up with it. What can I learn next? And through my reading, it's increased my streams of income, because I'm choosing to know more. And so I would say that if I could get people and motivate them to increase their reading, it's a known fact, it will increase your income.
That's good. That's good, because knowledge is power.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times we're sitting in front of a television, and the television is telling us what to vision. It's telling us what to think. It's telling us how to spend our money.
Mm-hmm.
It's telling us what is the newest fashion, what is the newest thing. It's motivating, and it's driving our money. It's telling us what to vision. It's telling us that this is the type of house I should have, or this is the type of car I should have, or these are the type of shoes that I should have, or this is the type of cell phone I have. It's telling us what to vision, and it begins to guide the direction. It begins to start prophesying to our pocketbooks. It begins to start prophesying to our banks, because it's telling us what to vision. It's giving us a vision of this is what a life should be like. So we get into the dangers once we're watching television of comparison.
Absolutely.
And I compare my lifestyle to your lifestyle. I compare and everything was fine before. It was nothing wrong with my Ford Expedition. But all of a sudden I see you in a Lincoln Navigator driving. It's like, wait a minute, Ford and Lincoln is the same thing. Same car. They are the same vehicles.
Yes.
You go and buy parts for a Lincoln, and their parts correspond. Same thing with a Ford. Same vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Same vehicles. Yukon Denali's and Cadillacs. They're same vehicles. Same vehicles.
Yes. Yes.
But we go through, and because of the name brands, and this is what we're seeing, and we're seeing like how you said, I never heard of the Joneses. I never met the Joneses. But you said, I do know what Queen Bee and Jay-Z look like.
Absolutely. And I'm not trying to keep up with them. Why do we feel like we need to keep up with others when we need to stop comparing ourselves with others and just mow your lawn, stay in your lane, and do what God has called you to do? And so I feel so much peace doing this, because I love seeing couples who had been arguing. Now there's a lot of peace in the home, because they've made a decision. We don't have to do all of this. And I love it when, this journey that my husband and I have been on, being debt free, I kid you not, we would go on vacations, and we would plan our vacations according to who had the best thrift stores. because we knew that if we went into the wealthy neighborhood of that particular cities, that we would actually find things with the tags still on them. And it's just been phenomenal. It has just been a phenomenal ride. And we enjoyed the journey of doing that. And we don't have any plans of looking back. And in the journey of getting debt free, we had not one, not two, 4 kids in college who we told them to look for scholarships, and they did that. And so we actually got out of debt with 4 kids in college.
Wow. So mention your husband. You said your husband and I. So you mentioned your husband. And one thing that happens in households is that husband and wife don't know how to communicate about finances. Or it's mainly one person handling the finances. And sometimes the one that's handling the finances is not the strongest one with finances, but they're the people person that know how to talk to handle bills. And so they're the ones that's handling the bills, but they're not the strong one in finances. So communication plays a big part in finances, but sometimes it's one person is left alone to where they don't understand anything about finances. Some of them don't have a passion to or don't even desire. They just allow the weight to be on one person. I know we're pressed for time here, but for couples, what is the advice that you give to couples when it comes to communicating about finances?
If you're interested in being debt free and having everything paid off, then you must work together as a team. Settle that in your mind. My husband is more frugal than me. In fact, I'll have to say, come on, treat yourself a little bit. And he was like, no, I don't need it. I don't need it. So when I do something for him, he's just like, why did you even do this? Why did you even bother? Because I'm letting him know I can't do this without you. And I appreciate you so much. I'll say, hey, let's go out, for dinner. No, let's just eat at home. And what's happening is that's how we got debt free, cooking more at home. So he's okay with it. So when I'll mention, hey, let's just get away for the weekend. No, I'm okay with staying at home. And I'll say, no, we want to have a little life here. Come on. And so he says, only because you want me to go or only because we're going to be together. So it's about teamwork. Sometimes you have a stronger person than the other. I wouldn't say that for me and my husband. My husband he's way more disciplined in terms of he just won't spend money on stuff. I mean, every day he's religious about taking his lunch. He is not going to miss a day of taking his lunch. He's just religious about it. He's just disciplined about it, I would say. And so I see that and I admire that in him. And so it was motivating for me to get on board with those things. So I would say work as a team. Settle that in your mind and work as a team. Your spouse is your friend, not your enemy. And you both are on the same team. So work together and score those points.
I like that. I like that. Working as a team, and that's what a marriage should be. It should be a team. It should be a thing to where you realize, okay, hey, I realize you're stronger here. I'm stronger here. Together, we can balance this, and we can actually move forward as a team. We can be equally yoked in our mindset. We can be equally yoked in how we handle money, understanding each other's strong points and each other's weak points. So we are getting ready to close. But before we do that, what is the one tip that you have to say to anyone? If you could leave anybody with one thought, what would you say?
I would say you can't do it alone and be accountable. I would say the other thing I would say is forgive yourself for what you have not did presently with your finances. Forgive yourself. Acknowledge that you haven't always done the best with finance. Acknowledge and forgive yourself and be accountable. You can't do nothing about yesterday's spilt milk. So Acknowledge that you haven't always did the best thing. Forgive yourself and be accountable. And that's where I come in. Accountability is crucial.
Amen. Amen. Tell the people one more time, how can they get in contact with Shereen Reeves? How can they purchase the book, and how can they get into your master classes, your financial classes?
So ReevesFinancialCoach.com. The masterclass is on Eventbrite called Kick the Pimps Out of Your Finances. It's a one-day masterclass. When you go to the website, you can purchase the book there as well. ReevesFinancialCoach.com.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Look, I am so excited that she came on today. She is phenomenal person inside out. We didn't talk too much about her being a veteran, but yes, a veteran. And so as a fellow veteran, it's just awesome to be able to sit down and talk to her in person. Meeting her in person, I promise you, this is who she is. And she loves to give knowledge. She loves to release knowledge and help people. And so still outside of the military, she's still out there helping veterans. She has spoke on several different platforms, and she does believe in coaching, financial coaching. Sometimes the coach need a coach. One thing that I admire about that she said was that she has a coach. She still has a coach. So though she coach other people, she also have a coach. If you're out there, get you a coach. You need, we can get coaches for everything else or so, but we need a life coach. We need a financial coach. We need people to help coach us into what God has purposed us to do, to destine us to do. We have to learn how to kick the pimps out of our finances. We have to drop the bomb on debt and start from ground zero, demolishing everything that we thought we knew about finances, replacing our mindset, shifting our mindset, because what happens is a lot of us, we stay stuck in a poverty mindset and we never shift. And so if you need help with your finances, please go out and connect with her. And I promise you, you would not regret it. I promise you that you will be in a better place by this time next year, probably in 6 months from now, that you will be in a better place financially with her. If you do not have the income, and I know we have to go, and I do need her to touch on this real quick. Some people say, well, I can't afford to get a financial coach. My finances is already stretched thin. What do you say to them?
Well, I will tell them ways on how to do some cutting. That's what I initially did. I looked at my budget and I saw some areas where I could cut. And that's how I gave myself a raise. It was things in there that I didn't need. And so I cut them. And that's what created some room in my budget so that I could even be coached.
So listen, give yourself a raise so you're able to afford the coaching to get the education that you need to continue to get out of a continuous cycle that we've been in for as poverty, for as financial debt, of getting credit cards paid off. And the next thing we know, credit cards are maxed off. As soon as we get them paid off 1 month, and then 2 months later, they are maxed out again. Give yourself a financial raise.
Absolutely.
And I'm trying not to say it. I've had a piece of her things, but I'm just telling you what she said in the class. She said, leave home without it.
That's right. That's right. And that's Shereen Reeves telling you better leave home without that credit card. And I want you to think about this for a second. If the average American is making $50,000 a year, you've been working 10 years, you've already made what? $500,000. If you've been working 20 years, you've already been a millionaire. So if you don't do anything differently, you'll continue to get the same results. Come rock with me. Let's get debt free. Let's work on this and move forward. I guarantee 3 months from now, they won't even hardly recognize you. 6 months, I mean, definitely. A year from now, they'll pass by you and say, there's no way you've accomplished all of this. So here you are.
Amen. Amen. Thank you again. Listen, this was Fervently Creations. This is Christian Talk Show. This is where we are trying to educate. We are trying to platform Christians that are in business. We are trying to go forth and do exactly what it is. We are networking with one another. Do not watch the show and not reach out or connect in some shape, form, or fashion with someone that is on this show, with any of our guests. All our guests are phenomenal in their own right. Networking is not about just connecting people. It's about connecting people with ideas, and people with opportunities. She has the opportunity to help you get your finances fixed. She has the opportunity to help you discover what it is that is beyond your job. It gets you into your gift, help you see what your gift is and see what it is that you was purposed on here to do. She has the mantle, she has the mandate on her life to help you get out of debt. Thank you again for coming in. Thank you for to all our viewers for viewing the show. And we truly appreciate you for watching the show. Like, share, tell people about the show. If you want to become a guest on our show, I would love to have you. Go to www.ferventlycreations.com. Click on where it says become a guest on our show. Fill out the information, set your time, and we will be able to network, connect. People need to know who you are. They need to know what you're doing in the kingdom. They need to know what you're doing outside of the four walls of church. How are you bringing the kingdom into the world? So changing it one day at a time. Again, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. See you.
My King rap Jesus. We about to go far.